We are here today to announce that the Justice Department has secured felony guilty pleas from the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, Binance.
Actually, it's Binance.
Binance.
Binance. Largest virtual.
Binance.
Binance. And let me be clear. It's Binance.
Binance.
Binance. Council has discussed crypto regulations and legislations at length, and we have come to the conclusion that instead of regulating, we are going to ape a fat bag each into laptop and pump it to over $1,300,000,000,000,000,000,000,000 market cap. Let's fucking go, crackheads.
Will altcoins and NFTs ever come back? Very good question. And I think we have to look at whether Bitcoin is doing well first, obviously, and then we can assess if altcoins and NFTs will come back. So this is exactly what we're going to do today. And we're going to have a special dedicated section for Ecomi and Veve in terms of altcoins and NFTs here as well. And I think it's going to be very, very interesting. So we are also going to find out what is going on with nation states aping in a very weird way into crypto by using MicroStrategy. And we're also looking a little bit at world development, like events in the world that are crucial to all of this. So make sure to stay tuned all the way through. So, good morning to all of you. Guys, I got my coffee locked and loaded, ready to go, because we have to talk about these very interesting developments here. But before we do, please make sure to smash up the like button right now to help my channel to grow and to pump it out to even more people. Also subscribe to the channel to make number go up, and tick the little bell for notifications if you haven't yet, but most of you that are here, they have already done this. And I see Trucking Hank is here. Trucking Hank, I think, has the highest sequence of coming back to the stream. Like every crypto morning coffee, Trucking Hank is on. So thank you very much for this amazing support, man. And also NFT Heroes here saying the intro is funny. I think glad you like it. I think the altcoin stream deserves their own intro, which is what I'm working on right now. But also I want to thank each and every one of my rare hodlers here around me that are sponsoring this channel with their monthly contribution. So thank you very much for this. If you also want to do this, if you also want to sponsor this channel and join the Rare Hodler group, then, my friends, then you can become a channel member. It doesn't cost much, and yeah, that's on this YouTube channel. But with that out of the way, let's almost jump right in after reading G-Flow's comment here. PH, thanks for the stream. What do you think of OMI hitting 5 cents? I give it about a 30% chance. It's weird to see the percentages. Maybe we take that question to a little bit later when we actually talk about OMI, and remember that we want to see how much or what has to be done to get to the 5 cents. But I think it's a good question. So, big sip of coffee. And let's jump right into Bitcoin. So, I think everyone expected from this week that something would happen, right? Either downside or upside, and then Bitcoin kind of wakes up with, it's Europe, so we are only six hours in this, as you can see here, right? In this daily candle, but so far the boring sideways chop continues. And quite frankly, if you take our price level and look where we have reached it first with high greed and excitement, that was already back in, what was that? Sorry, the camera is in the way. That was back in the end of, like last day of February. That was here, right? So last day of February. And and since then, we only have sideways chop, and it's like, it's never going to stop. It's never going to stop, right? So this is really what the sentiment is right now. It's like, oh my god, boring. And also with that, the reddish candles on all the altcoins is like, oh my god, so boring, right? And it reflects everywhere, like the YouTube clicks and what people talk about on Twitter. So sometimes seems a ghost town on the tweets, right, on the comments, because people just lost interest. And that is exactly what happens at this phase every single time. Every single time people lose interest at the most, or one of the most important phases, where it's decided where we are going, right? And the funny thing is, it can take another month, another full month until we get it. We have about 30 days left to get Fed rate decision, and then another month after that left to get to the elections, which are the most, I would say, which are the two big events that will determine how it's going. So in contrast to what many people said, remember that when people claimed that the Fed will hold an emergency meeting to cut rates, well, it didn't happen, right? And on Twitter, I also posted this. I said, it's weird that everyone says this, but there's no source, right? Can you stake your Degen wallet bump tokens on stream? I can try to do that next time. So so what is going on here? So I found this, and it doesn't even have, this thread doesn't have to do anything with crypto, but I found it so fitting, right? So it's like, this is bear market. This is where we are right now, probably. And then you are like, in the next months, it's already smoother. And then in a year, it's a green, big, fat ball rolling without any effort, right? So obviously that accounts for everything. But it's the road to success, and it's also the road of hodling out of a bear market, right? And I would say this is very fitting for where we are right now. We are not there, because that is the deepest bear market, when you have to buy against all commons and FUD and whatever. But it's definitely here where it's still difficult, and you still have some kind of a red head, right? So yeah, welcome Justin and Green Lantern to the stream also. So okay, what's happening in the world? Look at this. American Airlines suspends flight to and from Israel until April 2025. So many people think now that you have this big gap here in this whole area, that this conflict might go into the next phase, right? And it's not unrealistic. And also they expect it somehow, because they're not like, oh, let's see, maybe by January we come back. No, until April next year, that's half a year not servicing any flights, right? Someone says on this, I want the world schedule for next year, please. Whatever happens, right? But it's very likely to trigger first a crash and then the money printer going off, right? So from that perspective, obviously no one desires that, but now it seems at least that from an economical standpoint, the airlines, or from a risk standpoint, airlines think that there's no way that you can service this still. And also, very interesting here is China. It's always like this, right? China will unban crypto in the coming days following pressure from pro-crypto policies in US election sources. So, you know that the bull run is on full mode even though it doesn't reflect in the chart, if China is discussing to unban Bitcoin. And the bear market is definitely confirmed when China bans Bitcoin again, right? So what they do right now is they will unban it and they will communicate it, and maybe it leads to a pump. But also they have probably realized that it was a bad move to get all the hash power out of China, because so they did this 4 years ago. I think they banned Bitcoin. I think it was somewhere in the bull run. I think it was somewhere during or in the end of the bull run. So it was not 4 years yet, but almost 4 years ago. So them unbanning, I think they realized that they did a mistake, because it would have been better if Chinese companies and Chinese people would have had the chance to mine Bitcoin, contribute to the hash power out of China, and collect Bitcoin into China, right? And we remember they had many illegal operations and so on their soil, where people were mining the stuff and whatnot. So yeah, that is definitely crazy. And I think so maybe we're coming to this in a second, but this is where the question comes often up about if nation states going into Bitcoin is a risk for Bitcoin. So let's watch this super old video once again, because it's so good together, and then we discuss a little bit more the nation states. And remember, this is all leading up to our topic of whether altcoins and NFTs are coming back, but we first need to check whether Bitcoin is fine or not, right? So let's watch this quickly together and then discuss.
Concerns about a large nation state that has interest in just actively destroying Bitcoin to make their own, super rigs and design chips and just throw hundreds of millions or billions of dollars to intentionally disrupt the blockchain.
Yeah, I don't worry about that at all. This cannot be done with Bitcoin anymore. This is something that can only be done with nascent altcoins. Bitcoin has achieved a level of computing that no single nation state can overthrow it through computation alone. The effort to do so would require a massive covert operation of chip fabrication, then the coordinated assault that would give them dominance over the next block for 10 minutes until we kick those bastards off the network, rework the protocol around them. They would be revealed. They would have lost $1 billion doing this, and all they got to do was one double spend. Now, here's the thing. Long before we get to that point, they figure out that if they just let this stuff run, they can actually get some Bitcoin as a reward, because the incentive structure actually works. And so I'm not worried about that. And a lot of people are watching the blockchain. And as I said before, what are they going to do? So they take over and they fork the blockchain and they go somewhere, right? They've created an alternative blockchain. Great. What are we going to do? Who's going to join the NSA blockchain? Anybody want to jump on FedCoin? So we're all going to stay on the old fork. Difficulty will go down. It will get more profitable for the miners who stayed behind, and we'll carry on with our coin, and they can go mine whatever the hell they want on their alternative blockchain. They achieve nothing. They can't make protocol changes because we, as I said, 5 constituencies in consensus, and it would take $1 billion to pull the most ridiculous Keystone Cops failure in history. Plus, this would actually require government that can do IT.
Yeah, as Justin says, absolutely wrecked. So I love this video, and I watched it probably 100 times already. And the cool thing is, I think this is from 2014 or so really, really early, maybe 2016, I don't know. And remember, when he says like it costs $1 billion, today it would cost much more. $1 billion back in those days was actually a lot of money. Right now it's just like peanuts for the governments, right? But it shows why governments can't, like, they have no option anymore, and why is one of the reasons why China or permitting some Bitcoin action is not bearish, it's bullish. So when already in these years, I don't know, back in 2014 or something like that, it was almost impossible. Imagine now from the perspective of hash power, how much you would have to do to overthrow the network for a couple of minutes. So that is definitely not the case. And so this is why, and maybe I close this here. So this is why now the central banks, they finally got the memo and they want to buy Bitcoin, right? But they can't. In many countries, they really can't buy like the physical Bitcoin, nor can they buy a US ETF. So what do? They go to a direct on the stock listing company that is basically an equivalent of Bitcoin, right? And so we see here the Norwegian central bank bought 1.1 million shares, almost, a little bit more, of MicroStrategy. So this is what they can do. And since MicroStrategy is the only company that did display, basically being a representative of Bitcoin, it is as if MicroStrategy is a Bitcoin ETF accessible for the whole world, right? Legally purchasable by the whole world. And then the Swiss central bank also bought 466,000, so 500,000 shares of MicroStrategy, so half of what the Norwegian bank did. But that is not only this is not the end of it, right? There's also South Korean pension fund, National Pension Service, bought $34 million of MicroStrategy shares. So I don't know how many shares that is. Like everyone puts out different values. And then also the state of North Carolina owns 70,000 shares of MicroStrategy. So this is a way of those institutions and especially central banks of already getting into Bitcoin, until at some point they can probably put Bitcoin directly in the balance sheets. But this also, this way they can do it in a more hidden way. So I see Hi there, hey, ask a question regarding Omi, and also Trucking Hank ask a question. So I think I will go quickly with the Bitcoin stuff to the end, and then I will go into this topic. So don't worry, guys, I will come to this topic. But first, I want to show you that Michael Saylor, he actually talked about this before. He actually told people that you can do this way, right? You can just buy Bitcoin and make an operation out of this. So let's listen to this also together. Super interesting stuff to see this.
The guys that buy my converts, when I sell a convertible bond, I have a 1-hour phone call. I'm like, okay, this is the bond. This is what we're going to do. Okay, they buy 800 million of it at the end of the day. Okay, why? It's like they have the money. They have to buy a convertible bond. They can't. They're like, why don't they buy Bitcoin? They can't. Why don't they buy your equity? They can't. They need to buy. There's a phrase in Wall Street: if the ducks are quacking, feed the ducks. They want that. There's another group of people. They want equity in a public company. They can't buy the spot ETF. They can't. It's against their charter. They get fired. They just can't. Why don't they? Well, like, you're questioning the world, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the world is made up of huge pools of capital, and it might have taken 20 years to raise the money. Now I got to spend the money. So if you are the entrepreneur, my general message is you can create a security that a capitalist can then use to get Bitcoin exposure. And if you're public, you sell public equity or debt and buy Bitcoin. And if you're private, you'll sell private equity or private debt and buy Bitcoin. If you can't raise money, then you just got to work very, very hard and get lucky. And it's hard. And you'll see a Zuckerberg on occasion. You'll see some breakthroughs. But, you know, it's like, it's not easy. And so my recommended strategy is not work yourself to death. My recommended strategy is notice that there are $450 billion of capital in bonds and real estate and traditional 20th century assets. There's 1 trillion. So there's 450 trillion in those things. There's 1 trillion in Bitcoin. You should be the conduit to move the next $1 trillion from the old world to the new world. And the way you do it is by raising money with issuing securities to buy Bitcoin. And
Okay, that should be enough. I think the most important thing here is like this is a businessman talking to other businesses, right? But it's valid for us as well, and we see that central banks even follow exactly that, right? So he said billion in one point, but he meant trillion. He repeated it in the correct way as trillion. So he says basically, Bitcoin has a market cap of 1 trillion, which is there and thereabout. So it's not much more right now, and there is 450 trillion in assets, in wealth that is technically movable into Bitcoin once this transfer really starts. So what is happening right now is that all of these central banks, they cannot really get their hand on a true Bitcoin because there's just a means. It takes super long for the institutions. So they go by as Michael Saylor says, he's basically raising that money, and from that money they are going to buy more Bitcoin, right? So it's just like an ETF, where you also, if you buy a share, the ETF buys more Bitcoin for you technically, and you have a right to settle that share in fiat currency for exactly the equivalent value of that underlying Bitcoin, right? So that is what is happening right now. But he says, okay, so the recommendation is you have 450 trillion to 1 trillion, meaning technically in the end of that transfer, without printing money, but printing money is always happening at the same time, right? So these 450 trillion, they are increasing. You would technically have a 450x potential here for Bitcoin. Obviously, that is many years and decades out, because not everything will just, not everyone will be, oh, let's just sell all assets, liquidate everything and just move it into Bitcoin. But the allocation will go from 0 to 0.01%, and then from 0 to 0.02%, and then maybe to over the time of a couple of years to 1%, and then to a couple of percent, right? So this will definitely happen. And we see that he is like, this talk is absolutely coming true right now with all of this, what we saw, right? Norwegian central bank, Swiss central bank, Korean pension fund, North Carolina owning shares, and so on. And who knows who's purchasing right now and only has to declare it in 3 months. Every time that balance sheets are coming up, we will see it. We will see it in these times, right? And even then, is Bitcoin doing well? Right now, sideways chop, but look at the development. This orange line is Bitcoin. And now look also at the development of the global money supply, M2 in US dollars, right? So this is the money supply, and it was, since we hit our head here and came down, we were in a bear market, sideways chop. Same happened here, and then there was a breakout. And after look at the breakout of M2 here, and look at how long it took after the breakout of M2. So this was after basically the V-shaped recovery. You see that it was printed, right? So the V-shaped recovery of C crisis was printed, and then it took months where you already had some printing going on, and then when the printing intensified, you had this massive bull run that we saw in the last bull market, right? So right now we also have a breakout of M2. And the question is, what happens next? Well, what happens next is we print more money. And actually, since here trillions were printed, that's happening here as well, just to service the interest rates of the US government. Just to service this, we have to print money. Everyone in the world has to print money to service the interest because of the high rates. So they have to bring the rates down. They have to bring global M2 up. So they have to cause this type of bull run. But it can take a little bit longer, okay? By the way, 20 people here, so make sure to smash up the like button right now for this. And one more thing here from the statistical side. Look at it. This is probably the craziest trend line that exists in crypto history. So look at that. If you draw a trend line on Bitcoin from 2013 through all these resistance points here, resistance and support points, you will get you'll get a lot of confluence, right? So you have here this all-time high is still a resistance, leads to massive bear market, hits head, comes back, breaks out, and is in the parabolic run above it, right? So it's basically something like, if you are under it, you're technically still in a bear market. If you're above it, you are in a bull market, right? So here in this, we fell under it because of, like, even before C crisis, and then once we broke out of this trend line, we went into massive bull run, right? So now what happened is, we on this trend line, we already broke out. So we were in a bull run already, or we are in a bull run already. We moved sideways and we just retested it with this wick to 50 something thousand. So, and that is where the first golden cross of the 50 and 100 SMA at the same time happened, or happens right now, when this retest is happening. So could we see a retest like somewhere here or here, like here, and then a big move out of this? Yes, we can. I think we can see this. So all in all, I would say first learning is Bitcoin is absolutely on track, and it's Bitcoin season, right? So while the sentiment is not good, still institutions and whales, they are buying like crazy, right? So we see this here, institutions and whales buying like crazy. It's not stopping. They are buying. So they love the sentiment that is happening right now because no one else is buying, which means there are more coins for them. Now, with regards to the cycle, we have been overperforming before the halving. Now, after the halving, we are now underperforming first time. So it's now time to rise for Bitcoin at some point. This can take a couple of weeks, but probably we're going to follow this trajectory, right? So I think that at some point it will happen, but it depends on what I've showed you here on this global liquidity, because it's not a true halving cycle. It's a global liquidity plus election cycle, right? So this is what really matters. Now the elections are a little bit later, and if they just weren't print money, there wouldn't be a bull run as well, right? So it's not that easy to just say, as AV Creations just mentioned, it's not just say, yo, we are going to the moon, right? We have to look at the fundamentals here, which is money supply, for example, and then determine if that can send us to the moon or not. And it can send us first if we get, so what could happen is we get that money printing already, but at the same time, because of Fed Powell waiting too long with the rates, we could go into a recession. And once this recession is announced, or somewhere this rumor is coming out, we could see a crash. So we could actually go to the other side. You know this meme where the Earth is floating in space and the moon is like below, and the graphic goes to the moon but crashes like 30%. This could happen before, and there is actually warning signs in the charts. And so for me, it's like, yes, a long-term play means we are going to the moon, right? But the question is, what happens before? Will there be a big buying opportunity before, or will we just fizzle up into a big bull run? Now, I think it's Bitcoin season, that is for sure, because Bitcoin dominance is going up like crazy. And I think that institutions are buying shows that long-term institutions are bullish, and that central banks are buying Bitcoin also means that central banks are hedging long-term against their own actions of printing money, right? I mean, why would you buy something that goes down into zero, right? So that's definitely not the happening for central banks, because they influence how high Bitcoin goes against their fiat currency by printing that fiat currency, right? So, and you see that Norwegian bank and Swiss bank is funny because they are the only ones that are not part of the European Union, right? So yeah, that's correct. Norway and Switzerland, they're not part of the European Union, so their central banks are acting like this because and why? Because they have still control over their own currency. Whereas the countries in the European Union, they have the European Central Bank that is printing money for the entire zone, right? So, yeah, that is. So someone said seems like every time the other markets are pumping, something happens in the crypto world to sabotage it. Latest being US government moving about large amount and scaring the market. Yeah, it seems almost intentional, right? They moved 10,000 Bitcoin or so, 2 billion worth of Bitcoin to Coinbase, and people suspect that they would probably sell. Some people say it's only custodian and so on, but overall it's like a weird time to do this move after all this time, right? Yeah, they want you to keep watching while they're acting, and then they want you to FOMO in once they're done, so they can gain financial control over Bitcoin, right? And this will happen over time, right? There will be bear markets, and you will see it this cycle. My prediction, this cycle, we will see it again, that people talk about a super cycle in which Bitcoin never goes down anymore. So they want everyone who buys here, they also want them to hodl for like eternity, and that's fine. It's a good, it's still a strategy. And then get scared, like they think they will hodl to eternity because of the run, and then there's a massive crash because of quantitative tightening in 3 years or so, and or in 4 years, and then they will put a lot of FUD out that shows the opposite and have people sell at a loss. That let's say Bitcoin goes to 170k, people buy at 170k, then the Bitcoin crashes down to 70k, and people get scared and sell their stuff again. So and that's where all these institutions and nations, they accumulate more to gain financial control, because now it's not a game anymore only between citizens and like decentralization and governments and the centralization and power of over currency and value. But now it's also a game between nation states of who has the most financial control over these assets, right? So, and this is like, this game theory will dominate the markets for the next, I think, 8 years or so, the next 2 cycles. Yeah, so definitely happening. So now, what does that mean? Well, if you look at the month, we can see that altcoins are not doing too well because all eyes on Bitcoin. Everyone's buying Bitcoin, but everyone's fearful because of what is happening all across the world, and institutions love it. They love it. They love that all the stuff is, so they can buy Bitcoin and then they can capitalize with their asset managers on, like BlackRock, they want to capitalize on Ethereum and Solana and whatnot. And there is, I forgot to pull it up here, but there is a filing from, I think it's Fidelity, for a crypto index ETF. So it's exactly what we're saying. So that would mean all of these, let's say they have a top 100 coin index, that would mean all of these coins would technically be part of an ETF. Crazy, right? Because that would mean that Bonk, Floki, Pepe, Dog with Head, and so on would be part of an ETF, which is absolutely degenerate. It's nuts, and it should never happen, right? Are you going to take profits early? No, I won't. But this is not financial advice, and it's only what I'm doing. But I will not take profits early. Because I think that we, in contrast to what everyone's saying, like, look at this, right? Everyone's saying, oh, the Bitcoin left translated cycle, it has pumped so early, and this is why the cycle will end early. I don't know, man, because if I see this, and I'm convinced that global liquidity is the player here, if I see this and see where global liquidity broke out last time, and it was here, and I see us breaking out with global liquidity right now here, and consider that this is where we are, and this is probably the equivalent, then I will not, then this will take into next year definitely. So, and I will make it, again, I will make it very transparent here when I think the cycle is over. And I showed you many times that I have some indicators that show where it's going, right? So, for example, here, right? So I want to see, where is it? There. I want to see, first of all, this stochastic RSI thing is hinting at more downside for longer term, right? For a longer time. It might be that we could even see 2-3 more months of sideways chop / downward / whatever crash until we find a base in this, and technically like a mini bear market, just as we had it here in this cycle, right? This is like a mini bear market in this cycle. This is one thing. I want to see this play out, curve up, and then it goes on a run, right? If we go on the 3 months chart, we see here that is like a long-term momentum, right, over the next year or so. But here on 3 months, we see that the momentum, like the stochastic RSI, is looking upwards. And we see this here. And even here, our mini bull and bear is only this, and then our previous bull market is this, right? This here. So for me, stochastic RSI on 3 months should reach these high levels. And then also, and this is like, I'm going to base heavily on the TSI, right? So let me pull up the TSI once again for you guys to see where we are. And this is only, we can take the TSI on the monthly. We can evaluate at each month, right? If we have so much downside that we get a bearish cross here, I will call the bull run over. But it's not yet. It's not yet, right? It's curving down a little bit. But if we pump, for example, in the next 10 days or so, we will already look upwards. If we come a little bit up the next day to close in the 60,000s, we will maybe have the sideways and the next month upwards, right? So we don't know how this plays out. But I will rely heavily on this to say, okay, if we cross here, if we have a bearish cross like we had here and here in the TSI, and this is when the red line crosses with a monthly close over the blue line, then I will say, okay, the market is over. It's done, right? Until then, I will say, unless the blue line doesn't reach this trend line, we are not done yet pumping, right? But it's very, everything can happen in crypto. So if people say, oh no, this can never happen, it always is like this, it's as dangerous as this time is different, right? So let's just base our let's just update ourselves maybe every day on Crypto Morning Coffee, but also every week and every month on these charts, right? And with that, let's keep going to to altcoins and also to Ecomi and Veve with that, right? Because there's a lot to talk about actually, and we're already talking like almost 40 minutes about the other stuff. Let's talk about altcoins. So altcoins are in a deep retracement, and so is Ecomi. Not implying that Ecomi is going with it. And there is a ton of things happening for it. So for altcoins, nothing has changed since last week's streams. We are still in this channel. We are still in sideways chop also for altcoins, and we have corrected massively. So altcoins have bled a lot. We had a 58% correction out of altcoins, and now we're down still 48%. That is a lot. That basically means that all degenerates portfolios that do not even have Bitcoin got at least cut in half. Is still cut in half, right? Some are down 70% on altcoins. You see it here. This is like only the last month. Everything's down 30, 40%, right? Like meme coin, but meme coins, yes, meme coins are the best thing in the world, right? There's only meme coins, right? When you hear that, like run away as fast as you can. Okay. So, what does the sentiment tell us about the crypto? Google search trends for Bitcoin, Ethereum is an equivalent for altcoins, and NFTs in yellow, right? It tells us that we are back to bear market excitement right now because of the sideways chop. It means ideal buying opportunity for Bitcoin. Bitcoin buying opportunity ideal was 1.5 years ago. But technically only from the Google search trends, it's ideal also for altcoins. But you have to keep in mind, if Bitcoin crashes because of some macroeconomic event, which can always happen, black swan and so on, if Bitcoin crashes, altcoins get completely destroyed. They will get so hard destroyed if that happens, right? It doesn't guarantee that it happens. And NFTs are on the #1 search volume for the whole time. We saw a blip last time that we looked, but now we don't see it anymore. I don't know if they corrected the numbers or I don't know what. But NFTs definitely will wait until altcoins do something. Altcoins will wait until Bitcoin tops out. Definitely the rule here. So how's Ecomi doing? And let's talk about all these questions here from the chat now. And let's talk about Ecomi in general, right? So Ecomi, I think this is the best chart that you can have. Okay, so here's, I think I have to get rid about of these paintings here. What is this? So let's get rid of all of this. I don't know where these lines come from, by the way, but yeah. Okay, so we have. There was a way to. Oh yeah, there was a way to. I thought that with the cursor I can select. There was something that maybe I can just, yeah, okay, so I can put this all away here. So what we need to do is we need to maybe split up a little bit here on the drawing, but you see that the monthly chart, right? You see for Ecomi, the monthly chart here, we're in a downtrend, and we have the 6th red candle. It's almost guaranteed now that we close in the red for Ecomi, right? So we are still on a monthly basis, we're still in a massive downtrend, and there is no sign of reversal on the monthly, right? So we could have more red price action and more all-time low for Ecomi, and there is a reason for it. And that reason is the recent development for Ecomi with StackR, right? And as good as the news are that there's going to be OMI to NFT, it's not matching up with expectation, right? So the expectation for OMI, I'm almost done here, don't worry. So the expectation for Ecomi was this here, all in Veve, right? Integrated in Veve. And now we have basically we can say we have the StackR is OMI to NFT, is outsourced to NFT, is outsourced, and burn is also outsourced. And the argument is regulation, right? So, which means we can get rid of this out of Veve, right? So, there was something to mark this, but get rid of this. What actually is happening in Veve, or for and with Veve and whatever, and where the Ecomi team is actually working on, is only this, right? Exchanges and catering to Web3, hopefully working on, right? And the rest is now in StackR. And the expectation was that everything was in Veve. So this is Veve, right? I put it as Veve, but it's like the Ecomi/Veve team. So exactly, no regular user is using StackR. It sounds like a scam site. I don't think it sounds like a scam site, to be honest. I think StackR is a good site, but the problem is that people will just not use that type of mechanic, right? People are very, very lazy, and so am I, because every time I already have a hard time to use the Veve web app, right? Because I'm just lazy. I want to sit on the couch with my phone and I only use app.veve.me for loading up gems, because then, right, it helps the app and it helps me because it's cheaper for me, right? But the regular user that just wants to buy some NFTs and maybe wants to then discover OMI to NFT, which is the one of the incentives to get users that use Veve to also use OMI, it needs to be accessible in the Veve app, right? And it's not, if you imagine you have to do like, I have to make connect my Veve account to StackR, and then I have to buy base OMI, and then I have to look up a full tutorial on this. Like 90% of people will just be like, nah, let me just buy some Veve NFTs and that's it, right? Let me just buy some Veve stuff on credit card. Who cares? Who cares? On the other hand, if there's something with Ecomi and Veve, it can pump massively. So right now, from where we are to this previous high, not even all-time high, would be already an 18x. It would be an 18x to come back there. And very likely that's the objective. I mean, I know that Dr. Profits, he bought his OMI up here, right? So that is also where you would encounter him and many other people to take profits, right? So going back to the question of 5 cents, I think it's very, very difficult to reach 5 cents. Just because many people will reduce exposure and their bags at these two levels, right? Where they also bought. Now, maybe inflation driven and so on, they know it would be a loss if they sell already there. So we could technically go to like enterprise discovery at 1 cent or so. But something bullish needs to happen. Something pumpermental needs to happen to go to this. And we're coming to this, right? So one of these things would be, by the way, one of these things would be high burns, right? So at the moment, there are testing is going on at StackR, right? So StackR market sales, they are doing like super mini, micro, small transactions. How does it work? So if you're on StackR, you purchase and sell, but the Ecomi collectibles, the Veve collectibles, they are not being transferred to or off of StackR, which brings me to the point that Trucking Hank asked if I have any thoughts on Omi Watcher claim on StackR. What did Omi Watcher say about StackR? Omi Watcher said, what did he said? We do not, so here, I think it's this one, right? What you mean, Trucking Hank? He said, Omi said, we do not recommend using StackR due to security concerns around the platform. So with regards to the collectibles, they never go out of the Veve account. So I would argue that if there are security concerns, it's more about your data and, for example, connecting your wallet and stuff like that, right? Will you use credit card on StackR? I don't think so, right? So it's more like you can use your OMI if your OMI is moved to, your OMI is not moved to StackR because it's on a wallet, right? So I don't really see, and also this is a little bit weird, I don't really see where exactly the security issue is. The only thing that could happen is that StackR gets hacked and someone transfers, like buys and sells collectibles in your name, but then the gems off of these transfers would still be on your account, or not the gems but the Ecomi. So you could technically argue that by accessing StackR, someone can sell a collectible for OMI and then try to withdraw this Ecomi to an external site. So this might be the risk, but he should explain exactly what the security issues are, and I think he tried to do that before. Yeah, I don't know, but I don't see it yet. Can you elaborate? Yeah, exactly. As Corey TN here says, Can you elaborate on the concerns? If you can't do it publicly, have you made the StackR team aware of the issues and have they acknowledged your concerns? Let's see if anyone is commenting on that. I promised I'd make a space. So yeah, exactly. So Omilities is going to have a space about this, right? Now let's come to something more exciting. Or is it? We will see. But we had this drop here, and this was the first time that the drop trailer actually has a moving background, and it looks fantastic, right? So if we're looking at this trailer, sorry, I want to play this without sound to not get demonetized, but so if we're looking at this trailer, we see that actually that is only the teaser. There was a longer trailer for this, right? There was a longer trailer for this where there was like, where is it? I will find it. I think it's here. Yeah, I think this is the longer one. So this was the come on. This was the longer trailer. And what we see here is, look at the shadows. Take a close eye on the shadows, or close look on the shadows of the environment on the faces of these Marvel Mighties. So that is really interesting, right? So the trees in the environment, they are putting shadows on the Marvel Mighties, right? So that led to some people speculating, hey, could this be like Marvel Mighties in the Veveverse? And does the Veveverse actually look like this, right? Now, I talked to a couple of people that have access to the beta, and they confirmed that it definitely doesn't look like this, right? So, what is still interesting is that whatever they used, it's putting these shadows on the Mighties. So this is interesting. Now, I wish for a couple of things. First of all, if they, I don't know why this sounds still as every time activates, but if they build something like this, I wish that they take their time and that they build a small world with a lot to do in it, right? And not a vast world that is just empty, right? Because this is what most metaverses have a problem with. They build a ton of world and there's nothing to do in it. So I think the approach that Veve has towards a very beautiful showroom is a very good one, right? Now, this is not the Veveverse, but it is Unreal. So this is from the, it's loading. So this is from the Unreal Engine. This is from the store. This environment is from the store, apparently. So it's from this Megascans Trees European Beach early access. This is very likely it, something like that. So you can buy these environments on the Unreal side, apparently. So you can have all these trees, these environments. So this is nice because, first of all, I think AI can generate a lot of the stuff. Also here, like Nordic Coast Collection and so on. So you can easily have these worlds for your metaverse and for your game. So it's not really, I think you can just buy the stuff. So if they bought the stuff and put these collectibles in it so that the scenery puts shadows on it, technically that means that they might use something like that for at least showroom environment in the Veveverse, right? That's at least a hope. And the effort shouldn't be too high, spending money on this, right? So that's at least how I imagine it. I'm not a developer or anything, but this would be good. So I would wish for them to take more time, like take another 6 months, who cares, right? Take another 6 months for the Veveverse, but make it something that has the potential to pump the token, right? So you can use Omi in Veveverse. You can the Veveverse looks like this, like we saw it in the trailer, right? Where is it? Yeah, it's like we saw it here in this trailer. And then and then have some gamification for the collectibles, right? So you see all of these mighties that they brought out. If there's like a game, even if it's just accessing a portal and then you have a 2D and you can play them like Smash Brothers or something like that, but you have to have them to choose them, that would already be beyond everything that every metaverse has, right? And the only thing that you need for that is to execute on, like, focus on one element and make it big, right? We see so many games and metaverses fail out there because they cannot focus, and they neither provide the people with the tools to create their own content, and also on the other hand, they don't create exciting content themselves. This is where all these metaverse and Web3 games are failing at the moment, in my opinion. So let's see also that I cover everything that has been said. So G-Flow, coming back to your question about the 5 cents, I would say 5 cent OMI, I would give it a 5% chance, not 30%. I would say the 30% chance I give it for a 1 cent, like a 1.5 cent OMI or something. I would give it a 30%. And I would give at the moment, as things stand, I would give it a 50-50 or so that it reaches 007. And yeah, basically that's it. The OMI underperforming for me is a given. OMI underperforming for me is a given until something fundamentally changes, right? Okay, so that said, we also had another question here from Hi There Hey. Says, say StackR is up and running. What do you think the two outcomes would be for OMI if we get new exchanges and if we don't if we get new exchanges and if we don't decycle? Again, in both scenarios, StackR is doing what it's meant to do. So I would say that the exchanges, they matter the most when the bull run is already on, because it's just news that you can talk about. It's more exposure for the token. So the token is like, hey, new listing here, now buy some Ecomi, right? And people finding it out. So ideally, you want to have OMI going up like 50% in a day, and then it gets an exchange listing on Kraken, for example, and then it pumps another 50%, and then it gets a week later it gets an exchange listing on Binance, and then it pumps another 100%, right? So this is ideally how it goes. So what would be the outcome? So if StackR does what it does and you don't get exchanges, I would say you go to something like 003, 005, whatever. If StackR does what it should do and burns a ton of OMI and you get the exchanges, you go 1, 2, 3 cents beyond, right? So this is definitely what I am looking forward to. That could happen, right? Abe says please. First, 2 questions. How much OMI do you hold? That's easy to answer. 4.3 million. I didn't really buy anything on these lows yet because I didn't see any signs of reversal. So every day it's getting cheaper. Second, what do you think Pokemon does to the OMI price? I think if they get the Pokemon license, it would automatically be positive for the OMI price, because then it would be another proof of them being extremely capable at one piece of the business. And also would say that very likely big funds are coming in for them to execute on the other part, although we didn't see much execution on OMI just yet. And we have basically heard via Nestor that they didn't really deal with OMI, so it's difficult to say, right? Usually a token lives off of promises for the token and a clear roadmap for the next 1 or 2 years what is envisioned there for the token, right? And that's not the case for Ecomi and Veve at the moment, right? So there's definitely a lack of this vision of transparency, what is meant. Like, you really need to pump the narrative. Everyone needs to be convinced that Omi is going to the moon for Omi actually to go to the moon, right? Pokemon's the only thing that can save us. I would disagree. I don't think that Pokemon would be the most important thing. I would go back and highlight again what I've outlined here on TradingView, if it would load. So, I don't know. So there we go. Once again, I like the 4 factors that I outlined here. None of them is Pokemon, right? So I think with everything that you already have the biggest brands. So one thing that you want to give people is self-custody of some sort, so that all the Web3 people say, okay, I can have these big brands and I can really own this collectible, right? I can take it off of Veve and I can own this, even though it doesn't really give you anything more than that. Maybe some interoperability to a marketplace like Blur or so would be awesome, or stuff like that. And you need the exchanges for the token to pump. So this needs to come out of the Veve team, right? And then what you really need is, you need that the burn wallet on StackR is filling up with Omi, and like with billions of Omi. So you need the trades with Omi to increase and purchases via Omi to increase, so that Omi to NFT is becoming the deflationary mechanic. And yes, technically you don't need mass adoption for that. You only need a ton of whales to just transact all the time with Omi and burn Omi. But for now, I don't see the big burns coming, right? So here's the burns, right? This is the burns. So Omi to NFT and burns needs to go crazy, so that people are calculating, oh shit, if this goes on for another 5 months, another billion will be depleted, or another 5 billion will, or let's say it's 2.75 billion depleted in a month or so, right? Then you can calculate, oh, it only takes another 100 months and the circulating supply is technically gone. So that would be the ideal scenario, right? That there's a ton of burns, because then you have deflationary and Omi to NFT linked to these brands, and on the other side you have these collectibles which you can self-custody, and the token is available everywhere. That's the ideal scenario, right? If we get back to previous all-time high, I'm happy that's 30x for me. That's 30x if your average is down there, right? It's a 30x. It's a 30x, so 2,900% if your average is there, right? But if you're down 50%, it's unfortunately only a 15x, right? So, and then there are people that are down 70 or 80%. So for them, it's only, I don't know, it's not much, right? So you either continue to buy here, but also be aware, if Bitcoin crashes, something nasty happens, we can drop even lower. So there's no guarantee that this is the bottom, right? Because people thought this is the bottom. I personally thought this would be the bottom, right? I thought the bottom was in at 0.0055 or so, 51. 0.0051. I thought this was the bottom because of a 500-day base forming. It was not. Absolutely crazy. It was not the bottom. So definitely not good, right? But if that works out, then I think Ecomi can do extremely well. Yeah, or if they bring something unexpected. Because remember when they said, oh, we're not going to do any AMAs anymore, we are not going to announce anything anymore, we are not going on spaces anymore, we are not doing community updates anymore. So that the objective of this was to surprise people, right? So we're waiting for this surprise that lies outside all of this, right? So What's the next surprise? I mean, I think Blackpink was a surprise, right? And quite frankly, if you're looking at user growth, I don't know what's going on with my browser. It doesn't automatically load anymore. So if you're looking at user growth, actually, this is not too bad, right? So we started off here at 24, so 660K 24, and we're now at 174. That's exactly 150 more users with non-zero wallet in the turn of 11 days, which is roughly 15 users per day, 15 new users per day. So the D23 had an effect, actually better effect than, for example, Comic Cons and whatnot, right? It seems that D23 has a nice effect, and you see this here. So if this was only Flipper, then it wouldn't be like this. It would, so Flipper drops, they look like this, right? So you have a spike, and then you lose almost everything. Here, like you have a spike, it takes a while, you lose everything, right? Almost everything. So this is good because here nothing happened, and basically they lost two wallets. So 2 wallets went back to 0 or something like that. They sold the collectible. But here you have a nice growth. If we can see that, something like a steady growth or so for them, like gaining 10, 15, maybe then even 20 users per day, that would be insane, actually. That would be nice. It's not mass adoption, of course, but we're also not near a phase where collectibles are coming back, right? So that definitely is a good thing. Now, also nice here, this one, to show this. I think it's crazy that you have to deactivate the sound like 5 times. But look at this. So this is something that Vivesman did. And he is using the collectibles, and he's also using AI for making it, giving them a little bit more animation and visuals. So technically, Veve also could integrate something like this, like the AI stuff. Look at this, the Harlequin here, and so on. So this is nice looking, right? I mean, you can see that AI did some modifications on some things, like for example, the Thanos fist or the hands here of the collectibles. Usually AI has big problems with hands and fingers. You see this at almost every collectible. But overall, what they did, or what Vivesman did here, looks pretty nice, right? I mean, look at this. This is awesome. So can AI bring static collectibles to life in any form? Would that be a possibility? I think it's cool fan art, to say the least here, right? So it's really cool fan art, and it definitely shows some potential. Then also this one here. So Andre Jig, he posted that he bought his first Bitcoin in 2014. Who cares, right? Nice, good for him. 4.6 Bitcoin, that's actually quite a bit. And then someone asks, how about Veve? And he says, I'm still a bag holder. They are still innovating and launching products despite NFTs dying down. I still have everything, and when and if NFTs come back, I'll definitely do an update video. So this guy has millions of followers, obviously, and he still has his bag. Also, I think he has a Veve Gold logo. And don't forget, like, he has done some videos about Ecomi and Veve in the past. And right now he doesn't see sentiment, so he doesn't see value in creating these videos because it doesn't generate clicks for him, right? It's funny because this also means he's not recommending this at the moment. There's no paid promotion probably going on. Probably Veve will do that again. And keep in mind that he is, as far as I'm informed, he's friends with Foster as well. At least they know each other, right? Also, Foster commented on this. It's been a wild ride, my friend. I'm sure many in the community will be pleased to see you are still with us. I am also pleased that he still holds everything. But on the other hand, it wouldn't be too much of a loss for him probably. I think he put a couple of K into this, buying a logo, buying Secret Rare Spider-Man and so on back in the day. For him, the most important thing is making videos to millions of users. That brings a lot of money. So yeah, just keep that in mind. But he's still there, and if traction comes back, he will do videos about it, and that in itself will reach millions of people, which is a good thing for both Ecomi and Veve, right? And then also maybe interesting fact for you guys is this one here. There's a new world record on physical collectible. A 1979 rocket-firing Boba action figure just sold on Golden Co., which is, what is the name? Oh, Goldin, for 1.34 million. You have to see that this little shitty plastic figure is selling for this price, right? This is crazy. This is crazy. It's probably original packed, near mint condition, whatever, right? 1979 Kenner Star Wars rocket firing Boba. But look at these prices, right? So super scarce. It's like a one of one, but still, that's an enormous amount of money. Which is why I say scarcity is king. This is very scarce. Scarcity is king. Hence my bullishness on Secret Rare comics, right? Especially the 41 edition. So now we have, there are some drops coming up. I think, 2 comics and these planet stamps. I actually like these planet stamps, so probably I'm going for them. And also there's a Little Prince thing going on. I think you can get the environment, like the stars, the blinking stars or whatever, for Little Prince environment. Andre did 150k, so he spent 150k on Veve. Is that it? But if you consider that a video, like a couple of videos, probably makes that money back, who knows, right? And then also, if you want to see my discussion on what Nestor leaving Veve is, then make sure to check out the video that I made if you haven't yet. I made a dedicated video about it, so I'm not going to go into it right now. But I hope you like that whole discussion around it. Check out this video if you haven't yet. Also, make sure to smash up the like button for this live stream here for Crypto Morning Coffee. I want to put out as much Crypto Morning Coffee as possible, also as many videos as possible. I really enjoy it with you guys. And guys, we will see. We'll discuss much more about Omi and Veve in the next episodes. So make sure to stay tuned for that. Subscribe to the channel with notifications on. And guys, wherever you are on the world, have yourselves a great morning, evening, day, night, or afternoon.